Witness 499.
Mr. Witness, can you hear me?
Vale.
Yes, I can hear you.
Mr. Witness, thank you for attending to testify for the tribunal. Would you repeat after me, please? I do solemnly declare that I will speak the truth.
من رسما قسم می‌خورم که حقیقت را بگویم.
The whole truth and nothing but the truth.
فقط حقیقت و به جز حقیقت چیز دیگری نگویم.
The whole truth and nothing but the truth.
Questions from the prosecuting counsel and then probably some questions from the panel. Thank you. Mr. Sabia, could you just give the witness number again, please?
It's witness 499 on page 60 of your materials.
Thank you.
Mr. Witness, can you tell us what happened on the 25th, 26th, and 27th of Aban, which has brought you here?
Yes. On 16th of November, I went to the streets, and it was about noon when I saw that there were cars had stopped in the middle of the street, and in order to demonstrate their protest to the 200% rise in fuel prices, and it was a peaceful demonstration. They only turned their car engines off and they did not do anything else. And after that, the security forces came towards the crowd and started hitting their windows, car windows, car glasses, smashing them. And those pedestrians who were caught in the middle, they were also beaten up. So the cars were smashed and also the people were beaten up. And people, in fear, they locked themselves inside their cars and they were too scared to come out. And subsequently, the protesters went towards Engelab Square and then 6 Bahman Square, and they were chanting slogans. But I stress it was all peaceful. And initially, people were doing nothing other than chanting slogans. They were not bearing any arms. But unfortunately, the security forces and the police and security forces of the IRGC started firing at them, and the people started to flee the scene and went towards 6 Bahman Avenue. And from there, we were also there, and I witnessed how children and women were falling down. Because I had been I'd done military service, I was familiar with the sound of Kalashnikov and sound of shotguns. And I could hear shotguns and Kalashnikovs, and I knew they were using those weapons. There were children there, there were women there, and elderly among the crowd of protesters. I'm not saying that, so they weren't just young people. And especially that hour of the day, because that street has many doctors' surgeries, and so people come there a lot from even from little villages. They'd come to Sanandaj, which is a big city, to see the doctor. And the people were treated very violently. But the only weapon used by the people was their slogans, which they chanted. And they surrounded that street, and I could see that even the other street part, the adjacent one where people were fleeing towards the security forces, also went there and started attacking people. So people would try and find in any place they could find, until this continued until about 6 in the evening, when young people came to the street again, and you didn't see as many elderly people. It was mainly young people. And some of them, and they continued to chant slogans. And the only things they threw were either rubbish or bin or garbage bags they would throw at them, or maybe stones. But the forces responded by firing at them. That day ended, and on the next day, the 17th of November, it was 11 Farvardin Square, which is a big square, which is the main entrance to the city, at the main entrance to the city. And it is where the intelligence of the police intelligence unit is situated. And some 500 people were there. And it congregated there. They were protesting. They were mainly young people. And initially we saw that the police were not attacking them, but it was once the intelligence services and the anti-riot squad who were armed. They arrived on the scene and started attacking the people, and you could even see plainclothesmen among the protesters who started beating the protesters. And people would flee towards the top of the hill, or towards Engelab Square, or towards 11 Meter Street. That's the name of the street. And I was also among those who were fleeing the scene, and we'd armed ourselves with garbage bags, and they had, and the people had also to prevent the security forces for cars from reaching them. Some people had also took down telephone kiosks and to block the road, and put garbage bags there to block the police vehicles and the security vehicles. But they started to hit the protesters with spraying them with water, hitting them with batons, and those were some were arrested. And I knew one of those arrested, Kaveh Veysani, his name was. Kaveh Veysani was arrested, and then it was like a war scene, and the people went from 11 Meter Street to 12 Farvardin Street, and the clashes intensified, and I was really upset at witnessing, especially Kaveh Veysani, when he was arrested and put into a security van, and he was taken away with some others. But then they started, I could hear the Kalashnikovs and shotguns from everywhere, and I could see people falling on the ground. And even when people had, I went to Nabovat Square, and there was blood all over the place, on the ground. And then I went towards Charleghani, who's in Sanandaj Square, Charleghani Square, and there was an ambulance was set on fire by the security forces, and and people, I saw some people who had taken refuge in alleys, and I said, why was this ambulance on fire? And they said no. They were using the ambulance. There weren't any paramedics in the ambulance. There were actually security forces in the ambulance. And it was actually the protesters who set the ambulance on fire to stop them from attacking the people. Then I went towards Karigar Square, and I saw that Millat Bank was also set on fire. It was terrible. As I said, it resembled a war scene, and it's hard to explain to you. People had no arms, and they were trying to find somewhere to hide and take refuge. And then I saw that along my route, that opposite a petrol station, there was a bank, and there were steps outside that leading to a hilltop. And I saw that the security forces, one of them was wearing a mask, and one of them was beating up somebody. And this was in the environs of the city, and it was more or less deserted because it wasn't the main part of the city. And I saw somebody that but he used a baton to hit to try and hit the bank glass and the AGM. And I saw they saw me. They started chasing after me, but they couldn't catch up with me. And that day passed, and on the 18th of November, I heard from a reliable source that the father of Kaveh Veysani, who was arrested, had gone to every hospital and every police station and intelligence department, even courts, in order to find out what's the fate of his son. But despite the fact that the prosecutor should have known about the fate of anyone who'd been arrested, he said that he did not know what had happened to Kaveh, and this continued for a few days. And after some 19 days, the body of Kaveh Veysani was in a very tragic scene, found in a village in Sinjani village. And somebody called their homes anonymously and said, I'm sorry, I'm crying. Sorry, somebody called anonymously and their home and said, if you want the body of your son, it is in Tawhid Hospital in Sanandaj. And they said the cause of death was said that he was electrocuted. That was while it was the intelligence unit that had arrested him. And then the intelligence started threatening to the family and said, you cannot hold a ceremony and you cannot take part in any protest, otherwise we will not give you the body. After collecting the body of their son, they went to Kaveh Veysani's house with a camera and asked his parents to sit in front of the camera and say to the and ascribe the killing of Kaveh to Kemali and Democrat parties of Kurdistan. And they threatened that they will never, them never to hold any kind of ceremony for Kaveh, and not to contact any media, and do not even start any rumors either. They started a rumor saying that he had tried to take part in burglary, which involved he was electrocuted as a result. And when Kaveh was arrested,
his wife was pregnant, And he also had a 2-year-old daughter in 2019. Unfortunately, Kaveh died, and the new daughter never saw her father. That's all what I witnessed.
Sorry for your loss. I have no further questions, Mr. Chair.
I don't think there are any questions from the panel.
Thank you, Mr. Witness, for your time here today.
Thank you, Mr. Witness, for agreeing to testify. We appreciate the effort and courage you've shown, and we will take everything you've said into account. Thank you.
ممنونم از
I am also grateful to you. If you would allow me, I would like to say a few words. Do you have time? I also would like to thank you for holding this Iran Atrocities Tribunal. And I'm also grateful to all the participants to mention the name of Kaveh and also not to allow his bravery to be buried with him. Iranian people know that they are not alone anymore, and these incidents are not just limited to Aban. Thousands of people have been victims of crimes in the past years after the Islamic Republic. I asked this international tribunal to put into trial the ones who have been behind these crimes. They shouldn't be welcomed like diplomats when they travel abroad. They should be treated like criminals. They should be brought to justice. They don't represent our country. They don't represent people. I have nothing to add. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Witness.
ممنونم از شما.
Thank you.